Good afternoon, everyone. Today is our monthly accessibility advisory committee, and welcome you all. Before I will do this, before we start, I'd like to start the call to order at 4:05 p.m. Okay. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all pretty people. So before we do our roll call for today's meeting, I want to give our two new members a chance to introduce themselves to the rest of our committee. And I want to take a moment to thank our outgoing members, Nicole McDonald and Jackie Parcell, for their hard work and dedication to this committee during their years of membership. So let's start with June. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. My name is June Feswick. I live out in Beaverbank, and I'm almost 80 years old. But I'm very passionate about accessibility for everybody to be inclusive. I have a few, I guess, hidden disabilities that sometimes need some help, and I'd like to help other people. And this is my first time on the meeting, so I'm very nervous, and I hope we do good.
I'm sure you'll do just fine, June. Welcome to our committee.
Thank you.
April, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is April. I just want to do a shout out to Andrew in regards to the land acknowledgement, and June, you did a fantastic job. I am here as a neurodivergent individual who has learning disabilities, as well as invisible physical disabilities, and also medical conditions. I'm also Cree Nation, so I am First Nation of the Indigenous Peoples of Canada. And I'm just really happy to be here and happy to meet and say hi to everybody. And I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, and definitely igniting my own self-growth where I can. Yeah, just being a part of this wonderful community. I think it's a great initiative.
All right. Thank you, April, for that. All right, let's do our roll call. So June, you are here, correct? Okay,
Yeah.
June.
Yeah.
Yes, you are here. Excellent.
Yeah.
April, are you here?
Still here.
Great. Liz, are you here? And Liz, can you see your interpreter?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, I just was having some technical problems, but I'm here now.
That's quite okay. Thank you. Kristen, are you here?
Thank you, Chair. Kristen has not yet joined the meeting.
All right, thank you. Miss Mahoney, are you here?
Oh my God, sorry, I am here.
That's quite all right. For our two new members, I will say that we have two committee members, one named Michelle and one named Rochelle. So with my unique way of speaking, it can get confusing. So I refer to Michelle Mahoney as Miss Mahoney, just to clear that up a little bit, make sure that I get that off without too bad. Councillor Biddle-Gammon, are you here?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, new members. Look forward to your contributions as always.
Thank you, Councillor.
Michelle, wasn't there a congratulations due to you?
How
I'm trying to remember, Michelle. I thought I saw something that you were appointed to something. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Purdy, are you here?
I am Mr. Chair. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you and welcome new members.
Great to see you too, Counselor. And Counselor Russell, are you with us today?
I am here this afternoon in wonderful Lower Sackville.
Excellent. Thank you, Counselor. So we're going to begin our meeting with the election of chair, vice chair, and a representative to the Active Transportation Committee. So I will step down and let Annie explain how we conduct the election for chair. So Annie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, or having stepped down from the chair now. I just one moment, I believe Councillor Daigle Gammon has their hand up, so just wanted to acknowledge that first before
right.
proceeding with the election.
Great.
Thank you very much. Michelle, it was that you were on the program for the Wonder Woman conference. Well done. So my apologies for a minor discretion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was really nice. Were you there? Did I see? Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, everybody. So we are going to proceed with the election of chair. Andrew has stepped down from the position of chair for this election. And so the way that the election will work is that in order for someone to be considered for the position of chair, they will need to be nominated from the floor. That nomination will require a seconder, and then we'll check to see if that person would like to accept that nomination. I will do a call for for nominations 3 times for each position. And if there is only one candidate, then the committee will vote to accept that candidate as the chair, vice chair, or representative to the Active Transportation Standing Committee. And if there are more than one candidate, then there's going to be an electronic vote, and I will walk through that process with everybody if we get there. So first person I see on the floor is Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Thank you very much. I'd like to nominate Andrew Taylor to return as our chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Daigle Gammon. And do I have a seconder for that nomination?
I'll second Councillor Purdy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purdy. And over to Andrew. Do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Thank you very much. So Andrew Taylor is one of the nominees for chair. So with that, I will call for any further nominations for the position of chair. I will call once more for any further nominations for the position of chair. And one final time for the nominations for the position of chair. Alrighty, hearing none, Andrew is the sole candidate for the position of chair. So I will call for the question that Andrew Taylor be elected as the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Can I get a mover on that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle Gammon, and a seconder.
I'll do it.
Go,
Michelle.
go ahead, April.
Sorry.
Michelle. Okay. Wonderful. So I have that moved by Councillor Daigle Gammon, seconded by Michelle, and I will now call for the question that Andrew being elected as chair. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, please say nay. Alrighty, hearing none, motion carried, and Andrew Taylor has been reelected as the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And now, Chair, your decision here. You're welcome to run the next elections, or I am happy to continue on.
You're doing a fine job, so let's continue, shall we?
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate I'm trying not to say gassing me up, but it's okay. I'm feeling good. Thank you very much. Great. So we'll now proceed on to the election of the vice chair. So I will now open the floor for nominations for the position of vice chair. Do I hear any nominees from the floor?
I was just thinking, maybe June, just off the top of my head, if I don't know your last name, I'm sorry, but I was just thinking maybe June could be nominated.
Alrighty, so I have a mover for June, and that's Liz Duell. And do I have a seconder for June as the vice chair? And looking for
April has her hand up there. She might want to.
April, is that a second for June as vice chair?
Yes,
And
sorry, I can't get my video to, oh, there we go. My video turned on. Yes, I second it. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. And that's a second by April for June as vice chair. And now, June, I will go over to you and get you to unmute here. June, do you accept the nomination for the position of vice chair?
I do, but please be warned, I've never done this before. But I do. Thank you.
Thank you kindly, June. All right, so with that, June is a nominee for the position of vice chair, and I'll call for any further nominations for the position of vice chair. And I'll call one more time for any nominations for the position of vice chair. And a third and final time for the position of vice chair. Alrighty. Hearing none, we have our nomination for June Feswick as the position of vice chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Could I please have a mover for that final motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. And a seconder on that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purdy. That motion has been moved and seconded that June Feswick be elected as vice chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. And any opposed, please say nay. Wonderful. Hearing none, June Feswick has been elected as vice chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll now move on to our third and final election of the day. So this is the election of the representative to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. And perhaps I'll give the former representative, Andrew Taylor, an opportunity just to speak to that role of the committee, or the role of the representative to the Active Transportation Committee for the new members and for folks who haven't interacted with that committee before.
So typically the representative from the Accessibility Committee has played the role of advising the committee, what I'll call the ATAC, on what the Accessibility Committee has been discussing or thinking about in terms of what we would like to see, and also listening to what that committee, the Accessibility or the Active Transit Committee, is saying, so that I can bring it back to this committee and we can just communicate better, I guess, and not have two committees trying to do the same thing at the same time without killing each other. So that's the purpose of our representative.
Wonderful. Thank you kindly, Chair. So with that, I'll ask for nominations for the position of representative to the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. And Councillor Degley Gaiman, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the moment. I would nominate Michelle Mahoney.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's a mover for Michelle Mahoney as the representative to ATAC. Can I get a seconder on that motion? And April, I see your hand up. Is that a seconder?
Yes, I second it.
Wonderful. That has been moved and seconded. And over to Michelle. Do you accept the nomination?
Sorry. On behalf of Gus, sorry, Gus is my dog and he's barking right now. Liz, sorry. Sorry about that. Wow, thank you for the nomination, Counselor Daigle Gammon. I would be honored. But I would love to download you, Andrew, and get everything there is to need to know. Could we do that? Could we get together and maybe plan?
Absolutely, Michelle. It's
Okay,
quite an easy committee to be a part of, so you should have no
Okay.
trouble at all.
wow. Thank you, Councillor Gammon, Daigle Gammon. That was really, wow. I didn't see that coming. Yeah, I would be honored to take this position.
Wonderful. All righty. Thank you very much to Michelle. So Michelle is officially on the floor as the nominee for the Active Transportation Advisory Committee. And just, I feel like I probably should have mentioned this earlier as well, but for availability purposes, the Active Transportation Standing Committee normally meets on the third Thursday of each month at 4:30 p.m. And my understanding is that it is often virtual. Just taking a peek through the agenda here. So just so everybody knows that's on the floor. Alrighty, so I'll call for any further nominations for the position of representative to ATAC. And April, I see your hand up. No, I do not. No, okay. And I'll call a second time for any further nominations. And a third and final time for any further representative to ATAC. Alrighty, hearing none, Michelle Mahoney is the nominee for the position to ATAC. So can I get a mover and seconder on the final appointment, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle Gammon, and the seconder. And April, I believe I see your hand up.
I second.
Thank you very much, April. Alrighty, so that has been moved and seconded, and I'll now call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Wonderful. And all those opposed, say nay. Alrighty, hearing none, Michelle Mahoney has been officially appointed as the representative to ATAC. Congratulations, everyone, on your appointments, and myself and Andrew will certainly be in touch with you all after this meeting to kind of chat about your new responsibilities, but I will gladly hand it back over to the chair to continue on with the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, April, for that overseeing that process, and thank you for the reappointment. I enjoy this committee and I am honored to serve. Start my video? Yes, okay, sir. Am I being seen?
Yes,
Yes.
you are now.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. So the minutes from the April 17th meeting, they have been circulated. Do we have any changes or alterations to be made to them? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes. I need a mover and seconder. Do I have a mover?
I'll move. Oh, I'll second.
So I have a mover, Councillor Daigle Gammon. And whose voice did I hear for a seconder?
It was Trish.
It was Councillor Trish. All right. So Councillor Purdy has seconded. So I'll call for the question.
Question.
All those in favor of approving the April 17th minutes, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right. Approval of the order of business. do we have any additions or deletions to the order of minutes? Order of business, excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. The clerk's office has received no requests for additions or deletions for today's meeting.
Okay, all right. So I need a mover and a seconder that the agenda be approved as presented. Do I have a mover?
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Purdy. Do I have a seconder?
I saw June's hand up there as well, Mr. Chair.
Okay, June, would you like to second?
You're on mute, June.
Is that better?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, yes, I will second. Sorry.
All right, no problem at all, no problem at all. All right, so Councilor Purdy has moved that the agenda be approved. And June Pleasant has seconded. So I'll call it for the question.
Question.
All those in favor of the approval of the order of business? Please say aye or raise your hand.
Right.
Okay, all opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved. All right. Annie, do we have any business arising from the minutes?
Thank you, Chair. There is none for today's meeting.
All right. Do we have any conflict of interest? Excuse me. And Annie, I'm wondering if for the benefit of our two new members, could you just briefly outline what would be a conflict? Excuse me, conflict. I know you talked about it last month, but a month is a long time.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to do so. So on every agenda for this committee and all committees, there's an opportunity for members to declare a conflict of interest. This would often look like if members were to be a part of a discussion or vote on something that they might have a financial gain from either themselves or a direct family member, or something, they might be a member of a different board that, this committee is making a decision on. Funding might be allocated to a different organization that they are a part of. So this is just an opportunity for members to declare whether they have a conflict of interest on any of those kinds of items that are on the agenda for this meeting. And if members have a conflict to declare, they would just step away from the discussion on that topic, which virtually just looks like turning off your camera and your microphone, not participating or voting in that on that agenda item. And then the member would be welcomed back upon the conclusion of debate on that item. Yeah, members, it's completely up to the member individually to decide whether to declare a conflict of interest, and no one can, do that for you. It's your own individual choice to do so. But yeah, I think that just about covers it for today, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Annie, for the reminder. So do we have any declarations of a conflict? Hearing none, I'll go to consideration of deferred business, and I believe we have none. Is that still the case?
Yes, Chair, that is correct.
And how about correspondence? Do we have any correspondence?
Thank you, Chair. We have not received any correspondence for today's meeting.
All right, great. Do we have any petitions or presentations?
Thank you, Chair. There are no petitions or external presentations for today's meeting.
Okay, we have no information items brought forward, so we will move on to reports and discussion. Staff reporting. We have with us the municipal services for the deaf and hard of hearing. I will introduce you to Ian McLean. He is municipal clerk. Scroll down. Municipal clerk on a report from the Municipal Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Now, following this presentation, Ian will be available to answer questions from committee members. So Ian, you have the floor.
Hi, Andrew and the rest of the committee. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. It's really a pleasure to be able to be a part of this group and be a part of the meeting instead of just watching it. So I am here today representing the Municipal Clerk's Office and the HRM to discuss a report that is going to be going to Executive Standing Committee in the next month. This is a report coming from a motion that we were directed to look into American Sign Language services in regional council meetings. I'm going to share my screen with you and go over a brief presentation. But as a part of this presentation, we have built-in times for questions for me. And I also have some built-in questions that we like to ask the committee to get some feedback for ourselves as we go into some future planning for some of the accessibility services within regional council. Just wanting to confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So, as I said, I'm here to discuss a motion that came in as a result of a presentation that was provided in 2018. Presentation from the Deafness Advocacy Association of Nova Scotia was provided at this committee, and the motion was provided to Executive Standing Committee that looked for two different actions. Both of them are reports you're seeing to do with you today, and both will be going back to Executive Standing Committee later on this month. I'm here to speak about the second bullet, which is the use of professional sign language interpretation services televised in HRM City Hall meetings. That's what we're going to look at for this presentation and what I have some questions for you on later on. So through this presentation and through this report, we attempted to look at the diversity and accessibility strategies within the city, within the HRM, including the diversity and inclusion framework and the accessibility strategy in Halifax. We also looked and reviewed some of our current accessibility provisions that we offer in regional council meetings and have attempted to provide that through our feedback in this presentation as well. I want to be clear that I don't want to attribute CART captioning to be a replacement for ASL, but we want to provide a bit of an overview of what we do offer for these meetings. Prior to 2013, as you can see, we did have ASL servicing provided through Eastlink TV broadcasts at regional council meetings. Due to challenges from the provider with scheduling translators and the length and frequency of regional council meetings, this service ended. And that was part of what brought this report back to this request back to Executive Committee through the Accessibility Advisory Committee. In 2015, CART captioning was introduced in regional council meetings. It was identified as a new service that could look at some accessibility provisions and was able to be provided in a manner that was able to find providers and be done in our meetings, and a way we could put it onto our broadcasts, which have since been extended to being on YouTube as well. ASL service as a standard offering for meetings is not available for regional council or committee meetings due to difficulties in scheduling and finding translators to be able to be in our meetings, and also due to the frequency and length of regional council and committee meetings within the HRM. We are, and the clerk's office will continue to arrange for ASL translation services at the Accessibility Town Hall and for meetings where members or members of the public require and request through our office. This approach is consistent with other Canadian municipalities. As a part of looking into this report, we did look at other jurisdictions within Canada. No other major Canadian municipality that we could find offers as a standard service ASL services. Many offer it as on a request basis. And one of the things that we are looking at is how we offer and provide that service. As far as our next steps, we wanted to provide this report to the Accessibility Advisory Committee today to get review and comment. It is scheduled to go to the June 26, 2023 Executive Standing Committee meeting. We are also continuing to look into how we offer and what we offer for accessibility services in regional council meetings and ASL servicing. CART captioning, we are looking into adding into the in-broadcast meeting spaces. So for a regional council room, that is council chambers, we are looking at having the CART captioning added to the in-person experience there, and we're hoping to pilot that moving forward throughout the summer. This is a thing that hasn't been possible before, but we think we've made the technical upgrades to allow that to happen. We are also looking at our web experience and how people are able to make requests for accessibility services and translation services. Through this report and this review, we've looked at other Canadian municipalities and how they offer this request for service. And we are looking at updating and revising some of our forms to make it more widely known and broadcast that this is an as requested service. From there, I did have some questions that I wanted to provide to the committee and to hopefully get some response back to. We have looked out and we are going to be looking into other organizations and groups to ask these questions, but this is a group that we want to provide it to as well and look at it as a starting point for how we look at the accessibility provisions within our meetings in regional council chambers, but also in our committee spaces, which are happening in the Harbor East Marine Drive meeting space in Dartmouth, as well as throughout the HRM if we look at the Northwest Community Council. So we are looking at how the use of CART service is working to support people that are deaf or hard of hearing. Looking into what, I mean, you can see the questions on my screen, the approach to offering ASL on an as requested basis and looking at the promotion of that moving forward. And then looking at the committee is what would be helpful. What should we looking at when we do a review of our accessibility provisions on our website to make sure that we're asking the right questions and going to the right people, looking into how we can make our meetings as accessible as possible. So thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I can bring up those questions again if you have any feedback for me.
All right, thank you very much for that. We have a speaking list, questioning list. So, Christian, would you like to bring up our questions straight up?
Chair, Kristen has not yet joined us today.
All right, okay. Miss Mahoney, would you like to open our questioning?
Sorry, it's the whole mute thing. The questions again, like I was thinking and now I forget the questions. Can you, like, so like, so for example, I'm the accessibility officer at the University of King's College. And a few weeks ago, we had our graduation for our class of 2023. And do you know what? We had interpreters and it was great. It was fabulous. I don't even know. I don't even think anybody requested it. And, but do you know what? They then for the last 2 weeks have held 19 convocations for Dalhousie University. And not at one graduation was there an interpreter. So I think that we just do it out of, because I said, like, I asked, did anybody request that? Or because I'm the accessibility officer and I would field, well, again, I should say I just started in January. So I would think something like that would come to me as other questions did. But I think it was, they said they started it a couple of years ago and they just do it. And, you know, if it's not requested, do we do it anyway? And I think we should. So, and Council Daigle Gammon made a comment earlier. I was on a panel on Friday. I was a panelist for part of a session at the Wonder Woman conference for the Chamber of Commerce, and it was held at the Convention Center in downtown. And there were over 600 women in the room, and there was an interpreter there. There was not an interpreter. So I'm wondering if, you know, are things like this just gonna only happen when requested, or, you know, is it a cost thing? I don't like, this is something I don't know. I'm a person with lived experience, but this would be something I would love to learn more about.
Yeah, so I can draw you back to the presentation. So the rationale for it not being offered as a standard service is due to the availability of people to come in to be able to provide this, the length and the frequency of the meetings. So these meetings occur at a minimum of twice a month for regional council only. And for the committees that we have, they're happening on a daily basis, on a working day basis. Some of our meetings can be and I would defer to the councilors to this, they'd probably be better to speak on the length of it than I would be, to be frank. But these meetings can run an extensive and an exhaustive period of time.
Yeah.
And what we are saying through this is we want to provide as many opportunities as possible for accessibility and to provide more of a notification of if there's something that you need this service for, we will arrange it for you. But to offer it as a standard service in looking at it, talking to the providers, my colleague Angela is going to talk to you about another option that their group is able to look at that is not as requested. It is incredibly exciting what they're able to do for their type of events. We're looking at how to provide something that happens on a very routine and regular basis with the resources available for this on that. I think they're very, very good points. And those are all considerations that we try to consider in the research on this. Sorry, Councillor Russell, I see you have your hand up. Maybe it was my comment.
No, what you said was fantastic. I just wanted to put some numbers around that. As regional council, we generally meet every second Tuesday. And the meeting is originally scheduled to be from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. every time. And then, so as Ian said, it is extensive. And then when we get into discussing the regional council budget, especially from mid-January to mid-March, we meet in addition to the regional council meetings every Wednesday and every Friday. And that meeting is originally scheduled to be about 7 hours. Every time. So it is an extensive undertaking to be able to get someone to provide this service for the entirety of every meeting.
That's good explanation. I appreciate that. This is something I'm not aware of, right? So.
But one of the things through the research that we have found and we want to look into is how we communicate what we offer. And that was where some of the questions coming in from is looking at the municipalities that offer American Sign Language services, which is not everyone. Often they're offered at an as requested basis with other translation services, which is another part that we want to look into as well, is look into what type of translation services are offered. And then also how it's promoted and how it's communicated to people in the public, because it doesn't matter if we offer something if nobody's aware of it. So what we're trying to look at is we know we have some resource and we have some limitations just due to the complexity of the meetings and the length of the meetings, and how can we really target it through proactive engagement, proactive communication, and not just talking communication, listening communication.
Alrighty, Michelle, has your question or comment been addressed?
I think so, yeah. I just wondered what, yeah, no, that was good. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay. April, you are next on my list. Do you have any questions or comments?
Not yet. Thank you though for asking.
Certainly. All right, Rochelle, do you have any questions?
And thank you, Chair. Rochelle has not joined the meeting yet today.
Okay, I will update my list. Liz, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions.
Excellent.
Yeah, just a few things to talk about here. First of all, I was surprised at some universities, for example, like NSCC and other ones that were providing ASL interpreters. And, some of them were, some of them weren't. So, like my own personal experience, when I graduated Dal University, and MSVU as well, I had to contact them myself to provide an interpreter. So yeah, so for Dal University, we had an interpreter, so that was great. And you know, and it was quite a big audience. So there were no other deaf students at Dal, no parents who were deaf themselves. But you know, regardless of that, whether there are or aren't, it would be nice to have an interpreter. You know, possibly nowadays some convocations are streamed. I think Dal streams their ceremonies online. I might be mistaken, but it would be nice to have an interpreter regardless. And you know, CART services, so anyone who signs or would benefit from that, wherever they may be, can benefit from that. But the problem is sometimes, depending on the size of the you know, auditorium, it might be hard to see the interpreter. So maybe having them up on a screen would be better. You know, maybe I can discuss that with you after this meeting's finished, or at another time. You know, we can discuss that in more detail. Relating to town hall meetings, you know, there's been, you know, a lot of complaints, and I've had my, you know, things to say as well. It's very easy to read the CART, but the interpreter seeing them is quite a struggle because they're far away. It'd be much better if the camera was closer, you know, like from their head to about their waist. I've noticed in BC and other places in the West, they're really good at capturing like just what they needed the interpreter. But the last town hall meeting, it was the full body of the interpreter, so it was very difficult to see. So just having that positioning would be beneficial and more clear for anyone who would be watching. Yeah, just making sure you get that perfect distance, because I find that, especially with the Nova Scotia government as well, they have issues with that. I've noticed myself. So that's one of my concerns. I'm curious, have you already contacted the Society of Deaf and Hard of Hearing Nova Scotians about this?
Yes. Yeah, we did that with them. I just want to be clear, like there's nothing to do with our end for with any of the graduation stuff. I just want to make sure that was clear, that was nothing on our side of things.
Right, okay. Right, okay. Right, and I was thinking maybe just, you know, on a Nova Scotia level, they could set up potential guidelines that, or standards that universities or other organizations can follow, just to make sure there's consistency within the interpreting services.
Thank you. That is very helpful for my notes. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'm happy that you sorry, just for the interpreter here. Yeah, I think right, I was thinking about the Nova Scotia Accessibility Act, the bill that was passed a couple of years ago, and they're doing a current review now and making some modifications, some changes. I think that's great as well. And then I think, oh, right, yes, another point. So Eastlink, the problem with Eastlink is not everyone uses it. I don't have it myself. I'm with Bell Alliance. So in those situations, I feel kind of stuck. Before I was with Eastlink, but I did leave them and transfer over to Bell just because I was having recurring problems. And so I felt almost like disconnected from that community, and I felt a little lost. So that's just another concern that I had. But through the, through the website online, halifax.ca or .com, I think, yeah, halifax.ca. I think that's a great way to connect with people. Yeah, I do really like the idea about, for example, as we were talking about before, the Wonder Woman conference. I don't know who's responsible for that. I've never actually heard of it before. It's new to me, but maybe like, the organizers can, in their advertisements, can say clearly that there would be ASL interpretation provided. So people who see the advertisements could make their decision based on that information. So it's not necessarily like they have to, you feel like they have to pester them to get an interpreter there, but they would know from the get-go that there would be interpretation provided. So that's it for now. I don't want to go over my time, but those are just some of my thoughts.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the comments, and I really appreciate some of the overarching comments on the best practices. That is things that we want to take into account whenever we're offering it and when we're looking into additional supports.
Yes, thank you, Liz, for your comments.
Oh,
Councillor
do you mind if I
Diggle-Gammon.
just add one more thing? Just important
Sure.
related to CART. I think it's important for older people as well to have CART because there are some who are later deafened. And they might not sign necessarily themselves, but they feel left out because they can't, they don't understand sign or they can't hear what's going on. So I think CART is definitely important as well, like another important aspect. Just for, overall inclusion for all types of groups, because having just an interpreter does definitely help a lot of people, but not everyone. So I think having different services is great as well.
Thank you.
One point was, Councillor Diggle-Gammon, do you have any comments for Ian?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ian. Always nice to be in your company. Is there a report that sits behind this PowerPoint? Like, is there going to be a written report that people are going to be able to read through that's going to show where we, have data to say the availability of interpreters, the cost, the feasibility? Will that be written up in a report?
Yeah, there is a report that is going to the executive standing committee, and going to executive standing committee is targeting the June meeting of that.
Right. And will that report be provided also to this committee?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. That's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, this is Liz. I would love to see that report as well. Like, I'm very interested in that too.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Pardy, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry if you can hear voices. My door's open because the breeze. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you to Liz because that was going to be my question. I'd like to hear from someone in the hearing impaired community that what is the difference between signing and CART, and what was the pros and cons of both? So I feel like my questions were answered with her comments. So thank you.
Okay. Councillor Russell, do you have any comments in addition to what you mentioned earlier?
I do. It was a question that I fired off to Ian in the chat. It was just a suggestion that for consideration, we have a number of members of public who come and present to us both at the budget committee meetings and at regional council during a public participation portion of the meeting or a public hearing. And my suggestion would be for consideration of whatever hearing service to be provided at that time especially.
And just for the committee, that is absolutely a consideration. One of the things that we're looking at with the on the request portion of it, especially if somebody needs to communicate to council and communicate with council. And that's one of the considerations when we look at the timing of this and when we request these. Quite often we need as much lead time as possible to be able to get these individuals in for the interpretation services. So it becomes an additional complication. And that's one of the things that is one of the considerations we're looking at when we try to do these improvements to our communications and web presence on it is all those complexities and considerations with the involvement of speaking to council.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Russell. For
Yep, this
that,
is Liz.
Yes,
Is it okay if I make another comment?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, just related to right, just in relation to the website. Another suggestion possibly. So, you know, related to interpreters, you can also use VRS, video relay services, as well. It's wonderful for deaf people. It does open up a lot more opportunities for communication. But it's also important to have live chat as well. I really do enjoy live chat myself because I do benefit from the interpretation, but being able to read and follow along is great as well. So I'm curious, would that be implemented as well? Because same thing with like, for example, like it's just the instantaneous aspect of it, because sometimes like on the telephone you have to wait for a period of time for the communication to keep going, but live chat is a great way to break down that barrier and get through that. So that's just another suggestion as well.
Yeah, I got the VRS page on the CRTC website queued up, and it'll be one of the considerations that we add to our communications plan and see how we can then implement or look into it as an option more than we already have. And I appreciate this because this is something I want to make sure we're looking at accessibility options. We want to respond to what we're hearing. So that's very appreciated.
Right. Yeah. And definitely if live chat's possible as well, that would be greatly appreciated too.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite.
Sorry for interrupting, and absolutely heard that as a part of that comment as well.
Great, no problem. Okay, I'm done for now.
All right. Thank you, Ian, for your presentation today and your answering our questions. It was definitely an informative discussion. Up next, we have Cassidy, and I apologize, Yocha. She is the Inclusion and Accessibility Specialist with Parks and Recreation on the report for the deaf and hard of hearing community. We will have questions for Cassidy at the end of her presentation. So Cassidy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for having me here today. I really am excited to have never been on presented to a committee before, so I'm super excited and a little tiny bit nervous. So I'm just going to share my screen. So as Ian had kind of alluded to, mentioned in his presentation, so the original motion was broken into two sections. So he spoke about the section specific to City Hall, and I'm going to speak about this section specific to recreation. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the origin quickly because it's the exact same origin that Ian had mentioned in his presentation, but it was something that had come from this committee to the Executive Standing Committee. And so I'm going to speak specifically on the development and implementation of a municipal wild policy providing HRM residents of all ages with the appropriate support services, sign language interpreters, note takers, and or CART when accessing any HRM recreational programs, including day camps. So yes, So the background, this was initiated through a presentation to this committee by the Deafness Advocacy Association in 2018. And we don't currently have in Parks and Recreation any process for requesting American Sign Language interpreters or any technological equipment to help access programs and services for those folks who are deaf or hard of hearing. And the community consultation definitely reflected that. We did do when we had planned to do our community consultation, there was a kind of a lockdown in process. There was still, we wanted to respect the fact that folks were looking for maybe more so of a survey. So that's what we had done. However, we did get some really great feedback that our survey was in written form. We didn't provide any of the information in ASL. And so going forward, that was an excellent learning experience to be able to provide it in written and in an ASL form as well, so that folks can access it in both ways. Well, yes, but what our survey found was that the community was not satisfied with kind of the current access to interpretive services or any other kind of supportive services within Parks and Recreation. And in a judicial scan that we had done through the municipalities in Nova Scotia and then more broadly across Canada, there was only one comprehensive pilot program that we found that was specifically around removing barriers for the deaf and hard of hearing community, and that was through the City of Edmonton. And their pilot program really was several kind of layers, looking at increasing access and having one central location to access interpretive services, but then also expanding access to technology for folks that were looking for technology to be able to kind of easier access recreation services, and additionally creating training for staff to be able to kind of understand communication and different ways to communicate. Kind of seeing that model and then seeing that there was really not a lot of data, it was challenging for us to look at how we could create a municipal policy without having a really good understanding of what the community needs was looking for and what a budget might be and associated with that. So that's when we kind of delved into examining a pilot program similar to the City of Edmonton, which would be collecting data and then connecting more purposely with the deaf community. We certainly did some connection, some very basic connection, and didn't get a lot of feedback. And I think partially the majority of the reason is that historically there hasn't been a great relationship. I think people have struggled to get interpretive services within our organization sometimes. And so we want to break down that barrier and create a better relationship and to be able to have folks more broadly access our services. So potentially the first part would be creating a working group to help guide the development and implementation. And obviously at the forefront of that would be members of the deaf community, also folks who identify as hard of hearing, to be able to make sure that we have a first person voice representation. That would be the utmost importance. And then additionally, various municipal business units, ensuring that we have a wide spectrum of places where folks might be accessing from anywhere from 311 to Parks and Recreation to any other business units that we feel would be appropriate. And there would be budget implications associated with this pilot program that we would be requesting through the council report. And that council report, I think Ian had mentioned that earlier, is set to go to the Executive Standing Committee at the end of June, I believe. So the pilot program would form recommendations on some very specific areas. So obviously, part of the initial of the initial ask would be establishing a policy. So the pilot program could help us to inform what we would recommend to be able to have a municipal-wide policy. Additionally, could look at recommendations on access to recreation services and programming specific to access to interpreters as well as access to technology. And what that would look like would be both kind of an on-request access to both, as well as looking at how we could embed some technology and some interpreters directly into our programs. Obviously, we run 100+ programs a season. So would be challenging to have an interpreter available for every program, but certainly looking at selected centers or selected programs to potentially be having kind of interpreters available without requests and advertising that the interpreters would be available in these programs. Additionally, we'd be looking at training for staff. So how could we be providing training for some of our program staff to work with interpreters, work with the technology, as well as training for our front desk staff who are kind of like frontline dealing with the public, working on a communications plan, because again, if we have all these great services available, if this report gets passed, but the public doesn't know about it, then there's no purpose. So ensuring that our communications plan, really again, make sure that we're reflecting that first person voice and we're reaching out to the community in a really meaningful way. The working group would be looking for partnership and funding opportunities. We would want to make sure that we had some sustainable funding to be able to go forward. Once the pilot program was over for the first year, it would be something then we would recommend to go forward. And then also looking at a measurement and evaluation of outcomes. So what was the outcomes? How many people accessed our programs? Looking at evaluation of how they felt the access. Was it easy? Was it challenging? Did they like the technology or the interpretation as it was available? What would they like to see different? And then using those to really help form our policy. So here's some potential questions that I could throw out to the committee if that we were looking for some feedback on, if possible, as well as any other questions that you might have. We're looking at the best and most accessible way to get information about the Pylon program out to the targeted community. We have connected with the Society for Deaf and Hard of Hearing and a few other organizations, but we'd like to make sure that we're really sending the information out as broadly as possible. Is there anything or anyone missing from the outline of the pilot program that we feel like would be really important to have be included? And is there anything else we can do to be ensuring that the first person voice is represented going forward, should this pilot program be approved? So the next steps will be incorporating the feedback to from the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and then we'll be delivering the completed report to the Executive Standing Committee in June. And then based upon kind of feedback from that committee, we will kind of have our plan to going forward. So that is everything that I have. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I am going to, there we go. Here I am back now. Sorry, Zoom is not, I'm very much a Teams person. I'm still learning the Zoom platform, so I apologize. But I'm happy to take any questions or have anybody feedback on the questions that we've had from that I had put up.
Thank you, Cassidy. We will start our questioning round. Ms. Mahoney, do you have any comments or questions?
Not at this time. I'm good. That was a great presentation. Thank you, Cassidy.
Thank you.
Okay, Liz, do you have any feedback for Mr. Presenter?
No, I've already given my feedback, what I need to say to Ian. I guess I have a couple of things I could add. Oh, gosh. Just thinking. No, oh, my train of thought, I've lost it. So darn.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
Oh, sorry, Liz, I'm happy to connect at another time as well via email or any other way. If you think of something, afterwards, I'm happy to connect with you at any point. I think that you can probably, Annie has access to my email.
Okay, I did. It just came to me. The discussion about like after the pilot project is over, the continuation of providing the services, you know, and also the staff, the training, ongoing staff for the training, because people change positions and whatnot. So, but we can chat about that later.
And it's certainly our hope that the data that we get within this pilot program will kind of help to create more permanent budget lines or / grants that we get will help to create. But some of the training the training that we're hoping to create is going to be training that can continue on, and maybe we would have it annually or biannually or whatever we feel like would be appropriate, or it would be a training material that folks could read through. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would suggest annually, annually at least.
Oh, yes.
You know, like it's same as fire alarm training. It's good to do on a regular basis. You know, even a little bit of training monthly would help.
Great. Councillor Bigelow Gammon, you are next on my list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Thank you, Cassidy. I was really encouraged to look through this presentation when the agenda came out. One of the things that struck me is that we're talking a lot about at day camps. And so I'm wondering where we engage with within the school system, right? So a lot of these, when you think about youth that are going to be in the day camps. So where is HRCE? Are they a partner in the pilot? Would they in the city of Edmonton? Even if you could just send us a link to the Sydney or Edmonton's pilot project, we can have a little look through and see that. But yeah, I'm just wondering where that's connection can be made.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have connected with APSI. So APSI is, I do not know the acronym, and so I apologize. But they provide.
I know it well.
Yes, they provide.
Province's Special Education Authority.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I knew it. I just lost it in my brain. They provide a lot of the interpretation through the school board. I have reached out to APSI. They are under contract with the school board. But that doesn't mean that they might be willing to sit on a table with us, or they might be willing to have further discussion. So I think it's very, like they'd be a very good partner. They'd certainly be an organization, whether it's HRC, whether it's APSI, or whether it's both, that would be an excellent partnership to be able to look to examine. So absolutely, that's great, great feedback.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if HRCE has a small committee. Like I know where APSI has the Atlantic provinces, it's, that bigger view. So focusing it down into HRM, Parks and Rec. I was just wondering if there is maybe a local group through HRCE.
And I can, I'll definitely look into that. That's an excellent point.
Thanks. And just a follow-up quick question. Do we know the cost of the pilot study in the city of Edmonton?
No, we don't know the cost of the pilot study in the city. I mean, I do have a contact to the person that I've been working with, and I can certainly inquire. They did send us some of their they sent us some of our public facing information, and then they sent us some of their kind of background information that they had been working on.
Right.
But I didn't include kind of the exact financial costs, but I can certainly contact them and ask for that information.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pardy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was wondering the ETA of this pilot project. Like, when do you see it rolling out? How long do you think it will last? Like, how long will the project be? And wondering if it aligns with the next accessibility town hall, because that would be a great forum to get the word out and to see interest in participating.
So I think the timeline that we're looking at right now, and that's dependent on kind of budgeting and all of those things, would be to be able to have it come through with the next kind of budget, because obviously the Parks and Recreation budget has been set for this year. But that being said, if we can find grants or we can find any kind of other kind of funding opportunities, then we could potentially have expedite some of the process to have it start a little bit sooner. But I think we're looking at, depending on if it gets approved when it goes to the Executive Standing Committee, I think we would be looking at like a 2024 a situation. That being said, we could certainly look at when the accessibility town hall happens and how we can make sure that our information is we're in a space where we're ready to go to either be maybe recruiting some folks to help out with it, or at the very least at a space where we can be putting information forward through that, because that's a really great avenue to put a lot of information forward. So that's excellent feedback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purdy. Councillor Russell, do you have any input for us today?
For this report, I do not. It's all been covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. June, have you any discussion you'd like to bring up?
No, this was a big learning experience for me because I do have hearing loss, and had for many, many years missed a lot of conversations and learned to lip read a little bit, and sort of between what I was hearing and what I was kind of seeing, 90% of the time I got the right message, but not always. It is a big issue, and I think it's a big subject that we need to address. And I've learned a lot from this conversation today. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. April, do you have any to add to our discussion?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the video. I don't know why it won't turn on, but oh, there we go. I think there's just a delay maybe. No, I kind of second what June just said. Really appreciative of the learning experience here, updating my knowledge. And I don't have anything to add or any questions, but I will definitely reflect on it, and I appreciate the send out via email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, April, and that will conclude our presentations. So thank you, Cassidy and Ian, for your presentations today, and we have a lot to think about.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move on to the accessibility strategy update from Melissa. Following this presentation, she will be available for questions from us. So Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Annie, can you get the other Melissa Myers sharing abilities?
Thank you, Melissa. So both of your accounts should now have access.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry for that confusion. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Good times over. So, once again, folks, my name is Melissa Myers, and I am the accessibility advisor. I work in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and today's presentation is to give the committee an update on the accessibility strategy. So this is the same presentation that we gave to Regional Council a couple of weeks ago. So I apologize, councilors, that you have to yield the same presentation again. So to give folks a little bit background on the accessibility strategy, it was approved by Regional Council in May 18, 2021. The strategy currently contains 30 action items, with the goal of the completion of 2030. Currently, we are working on 20 action items since the strategy was approved. We've created an internal accessibility strategy task force that was formed to oversee the strategy's implementation. Just to give folks an idea of the task force and the members. So the task force is comprised of 19 HR staff from various business units and myself, the accessibility advisor. And within the task force, we've broken up the task force into 3 current subcommittees. So we have the Interior Built Environment Subcommittee, who looks at the built environment when it comes to like our building side. HRM stuff like rec centers, depots, those types of things. Then we have the Exterior Built Environment Subcommittee that kind of focuses on outside things like sidewalks, parks, those types. And then we also have the employment subcommittee. So I'm just gonna highlight some of the progress that was made last year. We did a lot, so just highlight a few. So one of the action items were user canceling gold certification and the AB651-18 standards for future infrastructure in the Halifax region. So this would be like thinking about curb cuts, washrooms, and accessible parking. So last year there was accessible washrooms constructed in the Fort Needham Memorial Park. So this is a picture of the washrooms, and they are very lovely. And then also that goes with that item. Traffic services installed 13 accessible traffic signals with another 2 planned for April that just gone by. And 60% of approved 2022/2023 capital playground project will have inclusive play elements. And another action item which is similar again, but it's to adopt the Rick Hansen Gold certification and the CSA B651-18 standard for current infrastructure. So this would be like including street infrastructure and things like that. So one thing that was accomplished last year was the playground at the George Dixon Community Center was replaced by a new all-inclusive jumpstart playground. And also the Woodside Field Terminal reopened in the fall, and the terminal now has accessible universal washroom. And also infrastructure maintenance and operation and design and constructive services collectively designed as well as tendered and installed more than 300 twizies and over 560 pedestrian ramps as well. And then another action item was around develop review system to audit billing public facilities, recreation, parks and playgrounds trail. To assess whether repairs or upgrades are needed to maintain accessibility. So an accessibility auditor was hired to conduct audits on current multiple facilities and assess what parks audits. So regular audits are now being conducted. So hopefully in the future we'll have more information on this. And another one was increased public awareness to the disability community around snow removal. So Public Works created a one-page information sheet to educate the public on expectations for snow removal based on their geographical area, weather conditions, and time frame. And you can find this information sheet on the halifax.ca page. And another action item is develop a workplace accommodation policy which outlines a formal process for providing accommodation to job candidates and employees with disabilities. Though currently the workplace accommodation policy, job candidate accommodation policy and supplementary documents are underway but not yet finalized. However, the draft policy will be completed by the end of this month. And just a few more folks. Another action item would implement mobile data, computer software, and online booking and automatic sales system to improve accessible booking services. So the mobile data terminal project is now complete. And mobile app for field payment is expected to be implemented later on this spring. And then the online booking system is a longer project. And then also with transportation, increased number of accessible taxis and or have an alternative provider for accessible cabs in the Halifax region. So Extra Care Taxi, the new accessible taxi service, was introduced in July 2022. Currently, there are 10 accessible taxis in HRM, and there's a steady growth in booking and ridership during the first 6 months of its service. And then the last one is increased training for municipal staff, so i.e. recreation staff, fire, police, on how to serve / accommodate persons with disabilities. So last year, 75 employees participated in going from support to inclusion accessibility training. This training is now offered monthly, and just next week I will be doing a condensed accessibility training to the Halifax Regional Police. Thank you, everyone, and if people have questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
All right, thank you, Melissa, for that presentation. So Liz, do you want to start our questions and comments round?
Sure, I was expecting to be last, but no problem. Let me just get my thoughts in order.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the presenter here. Just trying to find your face. Who was the
That would
presenter?
be Melissa Myers.
Can you see me, Liz?
Oh, yes, I can see you now. Okay, great. Yeah, I just have a question. You know, you were saying you were checking every park, every area in the HRM region, correct? Like every public area under HRM, you're doing audits for those?
That will be the future plan. So right now, to my knowledge, and But keep in mind, I'm the accessibility advisor, so I'm more supporting this work. So my understanding from Parks and Rec will be that will be something that they'll be looking into in the near future in terms of looking at parks and playgrounds and those types of infrastructure.
Okay. Right, because I have one short, sweet question. I was just thinking about benches with like the railings on the side. Like, do you, is that one of the things in the guidelines, having those railings to get for ease of access to get up and down?
So they would have, Liz, they would have an auditing tool. I don't have that right in front of me, unfortunately. So I don't know exactly what is in the auditing tool when they look at auditing those things, unfortunately.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no problem. That was just my one curiosity. Thank you, and great presentation, by the way. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Liz. Councillor Diego Gammon, do you have any discussion points?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Melissa. As always, I love listening to the accessibility strategy updates and how well we're doing. So I think just a comment is, I think that we're doing great. I like the 3 subcommittees within the business units. And when we look at our work plan, which is next on the agenda, I think it's interesting to find out how do we make this accessibility update to make this part of the work plan of the committee. Yeah, there's always more to do. So nice work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Purdy, do you have anything to bring to us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Excellent, again, presentation. Love listening to it twice. Learn more the second time. Question about, do you know the estimated time when the online booking will be made available for folks to book the accessible bus online? If there's like a time frame that you're aware of. The payment app is supposed to be working this spring, so I'm wondering, is that working yet? And if it's not, no, it's not yet, is it?
No, so my understanding is the long-term booking is going to be a longer-term project, Councillor, so I'm not quite sure. I've not heard a timeline from Transit yet on when that might be.
Do we have any staff from Transit here today with us?
No, we not at the moment, but typically we do. Yeah, but not today.
Okay, I can reach out myself then. And then, so Melissa, I was going to ask you, like, for our work plan that we're going to be talking about next, which is, I guess, like citing priorities to work on this year. Do you have any, from your perspective, things that you think that we should be prioritizing?
Oh, I do. So one thing for folks if you're not familiar with the accessibility legislation is that every 3 years we must update our accessibility strategy. So what we're hoping to do between now and the end of 2024, so that's a year and a half away, folks, we're hoping to do some consultation. But that also means that we're looking to consult with this community on what's in the current strategy. Are these the types of things that the community are still looking for? Or is there new recommendations that we should be considering when we update our strategy. So that's something that in the near future I'll be meeting and speaking with Annie about, like how we can have a meaningful dialogue with the committee to hopefully get everyone's feedback and thoughts.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Councilor Russell, do you have anything to discuss?
Chair, I believe that Councillor Russell actually had to run off to another meeting, so
Okay. That's good. Okay, then we will move on to June. Do you have anything you'd like to bring to our attention?
I found it all very, very interesting. And Melissa, I'm very new to this, so bear with me for a minute. Everything in your presentation was very, very good. I just have one question, and that was the playground was mentioned to be red and yellow, and I'm just wondering why those colors were picked out.
I think those are kind of the they might be the jump scare colors. I'm not quite sure on that, June.
Okay, if it was for visually impaired people, it would be better to be black and yellow. It's a better contrast color for people to see. So it was kind of a logo color, is that it?
It could be. I'm not 100% sure on why those colors were chosen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, June. Michelle, do you have anything you want to discuss?
Hi, sorry about that. Good presentation, Melissa. I always enjoy seeing your work. I'm quite familiar with the B651-18 as I am Hansen certified. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, kind of everywhere I go, I educate people. I went to a coffee shop the other day called Tart and Soul, which is close to King's University and where I work. And it's a little coffee shop. And so I was talking to the owner about getting an accessible door for their because there's an accessible button, 2 doors to get in, and there's an accessible button on each door going into the professional center at the corner of Coburg and Oxford, or Coburg Road and Oxford Street. So you go in, but then to get into the coffee shop, there's not an accessible button to get in. So I'm always doing that too. And I know, I think we're just talking about Parks and Rec, but I kind of take the opportunity to educate everywhere I go.
Thank you, Michelle. April, do you have anything you want to bring to our attention today on this?
No, I just want to say thank you, and Melissa, always a pleasure with your presentations, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more updates.
All right. Thank you, Melissa, for your presentation, and we look forward to hearing how this work moves on. Okay, now on our agenda is the work plan discussion. So I'm going to ask Annie to give us an overview of this portion of our meeting and the memo that was circulated to the committee last week.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hello, everyone. I know it's been a big meeting today, so really appreciate everyone sticking it out here for an important part of your role as a committee member and building out your work plan for the next kind of calendar year. So on Friday last week, a memo was circulated to the committee to just kind of give an overview of what the session will look like and kind of the work that's going to be done between myself and Melissa to kind of coordinate, the different pieces of your work plan between this meeting and your July meeting. So the idea today would be that we are having the initial discussion around what the work plan will look like for the upcoming year. So members are going to have the opportunity to kind of provide an overview of some of the different topics or interests that they might have related to accessibility and things that they would like to see the Accessibility Advisory Committee explore. And Melissa and I will kind of take all of the information that that folks share with us here today and see where that aligns with different municipal policies, programs, or services that currently exist or that in the works moving forward. There may also be some pieces that do not align potentially with municipal policies, programs, services. But I think for today's discussion, kind of like just think about like the things that you would like to work on as part of this of this committee, and Melissa and I will do the work kind of behind the scenes between now and the next meeting to figure out whether or not it does fit within the alignment of the committee's terms of reference. And then we will bring that information back to you at the July 17th meeting so that everyone has the opportunity to, see where all of the priorities lie, do kind of an official vote on which items will become the priorities for the work plan for the year. And then we'll kind of proceed with, pulling staff and external organizations in to come and present to the committee on the work that they're doing, or, different kind of consultation mechanisms for different business units within the HRM. I will let folks know that, especially for our newer members, there's been some mention today of the annual town hall, and that is a part of the committee's terms of reference for a project that is done annually to engage with community on accessibility matters under the municipal kind of lens. And so what we've seen in the past is that often there are certainly different topics that can weave into the town hall, but the town hall certainly does end up being one of the priorities for the year. And the hope would be that by the next meeting, we would get to a place where the work plan is voted on, solidified, and then we start those conversations about planning the town hall, as it usually takes place in November of each year. So today, what we're going to do is just have the initial brainstorming session, get everybody to share your ideas about what you would like to see explored this year. And I will be taking notes that are aligning priorities and that are aligning the priorities, themes, and all of that good stuff, in addition to the minutes that are being taken, so that we have two different kinds of documents to work from as Melissa and I build out, the beginning of the work plan for next year. Recognizing that it is 20 to 6, I also just wanted, sometimes these meetings fly a little bit faster than we're used to. If folks are, even just like willing to share like the kind of like high level topics that you're interested in looking at this year, Melissa and I will work with it behind the scenes to kind of get some more information to bulk it up. So maybe I'll turn it over to you, Chair, and we can get that going. But I also do see that Councillor Daigle-Gaiman has their hand up as well.
Yes, Councillor Daigle-Gaiman is first on my list for questions. So Councillor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, that was great. To be first on the list, I like I said, I do have another meeting I need to prepare for, and I actually might need a little bit of food so that I can feed my brain to get me through the next meeting. One of the questions that I have around the work plan or things to think about is in the duties of the committee under 6, E, it says advise council on disability issues that may have an impact on the budget planning process through the budget committee of the whole. And I do feel that that's a piece where we probably might need to have a fuller conversation, and maybe even, with the CFO, or I know Councillor Russell is chair of Audit and Finance, and I'm vice chair, but understanding what does that phrase actually mean in the real world? It's not, when we look at our work plan, I don't actually see those words in our work plan. So I just think that we might need to do a little bit of work on that and see where do we really have an influence in the budget process. So that's mine for now.
All right. Thank you, Councillor. Next, we have Councillor Purdy. Do you have anything for this discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, so just in my not quite a year being on this committee, and especially from the town hall, actually, where I learned a lot from hearing from the folks who came and were giving their comments and concerns. And one of the concerns was around the built form of, in particular, the Spring Garden Road recapitalization project, and how the surface of the walkways were not friendly for accessibility. So just wondering, how could that have happened when we have an accessibility advisory committee? So is there a gap in communication between that business unit and the committee? So how do we narrow the gap so that the voice of this committee is heard by the business units before they go out and spend all that money on built form infrastructure for our municipalities? So that is kind of something that I've felt should be addressed, or should be looked at, or should kind of be looked into, see how can we prevent that from happening again. The other concern that I heard loud and clear was the handicap parking spaces, making sure that they are adequately monitored by bylaw to make sure that they're not being used inappropriately and that they are available for their purpose. So making sure that's still a priority with our bylaw business unit. And anything else that I think we hear that are concerns, lived experience concerns, we should be advocating for. So those were the two that I was thinking of.
Thank you, Councillor. June, do you have anything to add to our discussion?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that I find very, very difficult is the little buttons that you push to open the doors to go into malls, go into restaurants. Some of them are on your right, some of them are on your left, some are up high, some are down low, some don't work. They're all silver colored with a blue wheelchair on it, if that hasn't rubbed off. That color is very difficult for anybody with vision loss to even see or find. And then the ones that don't work, usually the door is too heavy for little old ladies like me to get in or out. It's becoming, I think, because we do have older generation, the eyes don't see like they did when we were 20, and the body doesn't act like we did when we were 20. So and then there's new ones that I saw in the IWK where you just wave your hand in front of it. How's anybody supposed to know you're supposed to do that? There is a sign, but it's not very visible. Again, if they want to do color coordination for people to see better, black and yellow or yellow on black is a better contrast than silver and blue. So I don't know if anybody else has found that out, but that's one of my issues. Thank you.
And thank you, June. April, do you have anything to talk about for this?
Thanks for checking, Andrew. And no, this is really like my first official meeting. So it's really a learning. Yeah, June, I see you nodding. So we're on the same page. It's a real learning experience for me today. So I just appreciate everyone sharing and the flow. It's just a wonderful meeting to attend. So, but I will reflect on everything, and next time I might have more introspective for sure. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Miss Mahoney, do you have anything?
Hello. I'm kind of, I kind of just listening to what everybody says. I really struggle. I really struggle with the new look of Spring Garden Road as well. I've seen it recently. Accessible parking, the hand wave, I can't even maneuver the hand wave hand waving mechanisms because you have to put your hand right over it. Sometimes I can't lift my hand up, sometimes it's too high. In fact, the other day I went to the bathroom at the convention center into a single-use washroom, and they have one of those waving things right beside the locking mechanism. So you have to not put your hand over the waving mechanism and over the kind of bypass it so you can lock the door. So I have had the time where I've opened the door when I'm trying to lock the door. And when you have to go to the bathroom, when you're female, you have to go to the bathroom. So sorry, all of that just to say that there's so much work that needs to be done throughout our municipality. And I'm just so, curious at, when is it going to be done, and when is it going to be done right? Like, how did those planters, or who signed off on those things on Spring Garden Road? Like, I don't understand sometimes how things just get put in place and people with disabilities are not consulted, or I guess I know, I'm in post-secondary, and I know the work that has to be done sort of there and on my campus, and there's so much work that needs to be done everywhere that it's just, and there's so much talk that's happening. It's just the work needs to get done or be assigned, and anyway, I'm sorry, I feel like all I ever do is spew. Just because I get so frustrated. And Trish, when you mentioned the Spring Garden Road layout and stuff, I drove down Spring Garden Road the other day, and it just blows my mind. Not only that, cobblestone as a surface, cobblestone blocks as surface. That it's lovely when you first put it down, but weather it for a year, then it some of them come away from the mold or something, they end up being a trip hazard. And anyway, I just I could go on and on and on and on and on about things I see every single day, and it's just, I don't know, who's supposed to do it? Are we as the HRM Accessibility Advisory Committee, or do we, advise people? And because I'm so gung ho for stuff to be done. Anyway, sorry, rant over.
That's quite all right, Liz. All right.
Shall.
Yeah. It's been a long night. I am on Spring Garden Road at the moment. Actually, I am at the Central Library, my second favorite place in the city. And I have not experienced it in its fullest in a while, so I will definitely be paying attention to it on my way home.
Just go down to the, to South Park Street on one side of the street and then come back on the opposite side of the street. I'd love to hear your feedback. Love it. Would love to hear it.
Absolutely, I will. I'll do exactly that.
All right.
Liz, do you want to have any input on our discussion?
I live close to Spring Garden, on Park Street, so yes, I fully understand your concerns. I'm not really used to the changes on Spring Garden Road. I know I have to be very careful at the corner. Oh, yeah, right at the corner. I feel like all those little dots, the metal dots, at the curb cut, you know what I'm talking about? I know they help blind people. I know but for me, I have to be very careful on a wet, rainy day because they can be slippery. Or if there's a bit of snow. So I know that they're beneficial, but I have to be very careful. Yeah. So that I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Liz. This is really an interesting discussion, and I think we've got a lot of work to do as a committee. Annie and Michelle, Melissa, will you have your marching orders, if you will? And between now and the July 17th meeting. So we look forward to what you have to bring us on the 17th.
Thank you, Chair. And just if you will indulge me for a moment, maybe I can just do a quick overview of the discussion, just so that in the event that the committee feels anything is missing or.
Definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
wonderful. So I'm just going to do kind of a quick kind of like overview based on the topics, and please, if there's anything missing or if there's anything additional that comes to mind in the last 4 minutes of our meeting here, please feel free to let me know. And of course, if folks are available, we can go a few minutes over if folks are okay with that. So the first piece is around budget committee engagement, wanting to have a fuller discussion on the relationship between the Accessibility Advisory Committee and Budget Committee, Audit and Finance, and the Chief Financial Officer around this committee's engagement in the budget process as it's outlined in the terms of reference. A lot of pieces around kind of concerns around the built form of Spring Garden Road and that recapitalization project from an accessibility standpoint around the cobblestones and signage and the planters and walkways, corners and traffic, all of those pieces kind of combined, and do have notes on them as we kind of go through, but just high level pieces of that's what we're looking at. And kind of while Spring Garden Road was certainly a big point of discussion, kind of extrapolating to like built form at large, where does this committee have a role in playing a part of discussions or being a part of consultations around accessible design of ongoing infrastructure and built form projects. Parking spaces and monitoring of these spaces to ensure alignment with existing bylaws, and that accessible parking spaces do remain for those who need them. More pieces around the standardizing of built form around the color and placement of mechanisms that are intended to be of use to folks who have accessibility, needs and requirements, pieces around the actual physical placement of them, maintenance of, and the kind of contrasting image to draw attention to the actual signage itself. Some other pieces as well around access to, kind of also the same piece as above around, ensuring that mechanisms that are built for individuals who have accessibility, requirements and needs, that it actually suits the purpose that it is being built for. And yeah, being a part of conversations in the development of planning and infrastructure projects to ensure that accessibility is taken into consideration and prioritized when moving through that project. All right, and yeah, so if there's any pieces that are missing or anything that has popped up to anybody's mind as I was going through, I'm happy to include that piece as well.
That was a good recap.
Yeah, yes, fairly fruitful discussion and great input, and yes, you've got work ahead of you both. So I am not hearing any immediate shouts of, oh, we forgot to talk about this or that or the next thing. So is it safe to consider the discussion closed?
And Chair, I just see that Darren Young is here and has his hand up.
All right, Darren, floor is yours.
Hey, Darren. Can't hear you.
Still muted.
I think your audio input might be tied to your headphones, Darren.
Excuse me.
I'm not getting anything from Darren.
Can you take off your headphones?
This is when you need to be able to sign.
Yes, exactly. Good thought, good
Yeah.
thought.
Can hear you now, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Oh my Lord.
All right.
Anyways, gotta love computers some days. Andrew, actually, thank you, Chair. It's not regarding that discussion, but I just wanted to, before the meeting ended, if I could, is the new Halifax Commons Aquatic Center will be opening here in the near future, and we're hoping to offer up a tour to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. The goal is hopefully prior to opening to public, but we need to wait for substantial performance, so it might be tight, and it's going to be probably a short notice when we set out the call to see who can come and who can't come. So I just want to give that notice to people. Our goal is that
Where are you referring to? The Commons? Where is
the
that?
Commons. Yes, correct. The new Commons pool just across the street from the Oval. And yeah, so it's going to be short notice. We're shooting for the first week of the first 10 days in July kind of range is our goal. And I just want to give people a heads up, and hopefully they'll be able to make it. And they can see some of the new exciting things we're doing at the Commons, or the Common, I should say. I always say S, but there's no S in the word. Anyways, thank you for your time.
You're probably not the only one who says it that way, Darren.
Commons.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that, Darren. So let us now consider the discussion closed.
Sorry,
You said with
this is
a question mark?
sorry,
Liz, yeah.
I'm still not sure where you're referring to when you say the Commons Pool. What street is that on?
Cogswell.
Cogswell?
It's kind of in the kitty corner of Cogswell and Bell Road.
Oh, I have to think about that. Okay.
Okay. So we are on number 9.2. I see committee members, none. Is that still true?
Thank you, Chair. That is correct.
Staff updates, none.
Correct.
Added items, none.
Correct.
All right. Date of our next meeting is July 17th, 2023. So the next item on our agenda is the adjournment. I need a mover for that.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilor Purdy. See you all next month. Thank you for giving us your 2 hours today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
I have a question. Oh, was it decided on going for a tour